Hey, it's Eric Crawford from WDRB Sports here on a dark night of the soul for Louisville men's basketball. I think that's fair to say. I've just watched them lose 91-57, a 34-point loss at Pittsburgh. It makes the 21st loss of the season for Louisville. That's more than any Louisville basketball team has ever lost in a single season, with 8 games left to play. And in some ways, this was the worst of those 21 losses because the defensive effort was non-existent, and we'll talk about that. I've got a few takeaways from this game by way just of immediate thoughts afterward, but that being the one. They lost some games early in the year that looked bad. The blowout losses at Maui, the 1-point losses to inferior teams to start the year, but this loss tonight, I think, was worse because I think it was what it meant. This is a team that they hung tough with at home just 3 weeks ago. They were down 9 at the half to Pittsburgh in early January. They were down 9 with 10 minutes to play. In this game, they fought hard for 6 minutes. It was 14-14. They stopped making shots, and Pittsburgh went on a 17-1 run and kept on running and ran away and largely did whatever it wanted. And defense was non-existent. Effort was not great. It wasn't great from pretty much anybody until he went deep into the bench in the second half, which Kenny Payne probably waited too long to do, given what we saw in this game. Pitt, the stat that I think really speaks to this to me, blocked 10 shots in the second half. Louisville made only 8 shots in the second half. Pitt blocked more shots than Louisville made in the second half. That just is an astounding stat. Louisville made only 6 2-point baskets in the whole game. And that just kind of speaks to where we are. Pitt was able to make 17 3-pointers because they got good looks. They were wide open for most of those. They made a few contested shots, but largely they did whatever they wanted. When they didn't score, it was mainly because they missed shots or they missed a windmill dunk or something like that. That there just wasn't any intensity there on defense from Louisville. After the game, Kenny is incredibly disappointed how this season has gone. Anybody that thinks he's enjoying this is deluded. But really, more than he has in previous comments, I felt like he wanted to take blame for what happened on the court. Let's listen to a few things he had to say after the game.
I could talk about, what we didn't do right. I can just tell you we didn't come to a fight. It was a fight. We didn't show up. And I blame myself for that because I tried really hard to explain to the players exactly who you're facing, exactly who you're playing against.
Well, here's the thing with Kenny. To blame yourself is all well and good, and that happens. And we can talk about Louisville basketball, and we have talked about it. He's going to bear responsibility for this season. He has to own what has happened. When you're 3-21, you're the coach. You have to own it. I can tell you that, we've gone through the litany of things. This team only won a couple games after Chris Mack left last year, and the best players off that group a year ago were all gone. That's all under the bridge. He's had a chance to recruit who he wanted to recruit or who he could get and bring in whoever he could and all of those things. And that's all fine. But to me, for Kenny Payne to get up and to continue to talk about we need more effort, we need more fight, we need to understand what they're about, we need to understand this is a dogfight or whatever it was he called it, a knockdown, drag out. Fight and effort only get you so far. And while it's true, if this team had played harder, they might not have lost by as many. I feel like if this team had played harder, it still probably would have lost. But when you're still trying to coach effort, whatever this is, 24 games into the season, it's a problem. And at some point you feel like you'd either have gotten through to them or you're never going to get through to them. And I don't think he's ever going to get through to this group. He's going to get another year to try and get through to the next group. If he doesn't get through to that group, I think it's going to be some difficult conversations at the University of Louisville. And I know that's not fair because if you look at what Jeff Capel did, he won 3 games one year, he won 5 games one year. It took him 5 years to get Pittsburgh where it is right now. And really, it was getting into the transfer portal after last season that enabled Pittsburgh to do what it's done. So maybe Kenny Payne can do that, but he doesn't have the experience that Capel had, last year when he had to rebuild in the offseason. So it's going to be tough for him because he's lost some of the time he had. The tough thing if you're a Louisville fan, and I know this from a great many, I mean, everybody wants Kenny Payne to succeed. Nobody's rooting against him. They're angry with him, some of them. They're disillusioned with what they see, a lot of them. But there's nobody that wants him to fail. There's nobody when he took the job said, boy, I hope he doesn't do well. That's not the sentiment among Louisville fans. I think people want to see this team do well, but they also have a very realistic view of the basketball they're seeing, and it's not good. And they not only look poor, like they're playing poorly, but they don't look well coached. And that's a problem for a lot of people, and I understand that problem. And it's going to be for Kenny to defend himself and for Josh Hurd to defend him, his coach, if that's what they choose to do. There may be nothing they can say in their own defense. And I'm not going to sit here and defend a 34-point loss at Pittsburgh where the effort wasn't great and the defense really wasn't there. So this is where we are. It is a dark night of the soul for Louisville basketball. We'll take another fresh look at it in the morning, see what it looks like in the light of day. My guess is it's not going to look any better. On Saturday, they go to a Miami team that just blew out Duke. It's not going to get easier. They built what we thought was improvement over the last couple of weeks against the worst of the ACC. They played 4 really bad teams. They were only able to beat one of them. Now they're going to play some pretty good teams in the ACC. Miami's pretty good. Virginia's pretty good. Clemson's pretty good. Duke's pretty good. It's going to be a long couple of weeks and a long stretch run with about 8 games left and already a school record in losses in the book. It's going to be tough. We will continue to cover it. Not sure what else there is to say about it. We'll find stuff. For WDRB Sports, I'm Eric Crawford.